In this video, we'll show how to create a PreUUT dialog. A PreUUT dialog is a dialog we launch after the user starts a test sequence to collect information about a given test run, including serial number, part number, and an optional comments field in case there's something about this particular test run we need to know about when we're analyzing the data. So let's get started. Okay, from LabVIEW, the easiest way to start this is to File, New, and then go to the dialog using Events. This will give you a template with all the controls you needed to get going, including an OK and a cancel button, an indicator to say whether or not we canceled, and the while loop and event structure that we need to do it. Let's just clean this up a little bit. The basic cases you want to have, or controls you want to have for a PreUUT dialog, is you're going to need a serial number dialog box. And then we're going to need a part number. So let's make the part number a combo box. And we'll go to System combo box. And then we'll do a comments field. And we'll add a vertical scroll bar to this in case they need it. All right. And we'll line these up. And then we need to pass them out of the VI, so we're going to need an indicator for each of these controls. Another thing we're going to want to do for data to enforce data flow programming is you're going to want to get an error cluster in and out. It won't do much in this VI, but it'll allow you to chain it on your LabVIEW block diagram so it executes when it needs to. And we'll put them on the bottom for LabVIEW standards. And then we're going to make the serial number a little bit bigger. And usually at this point, what I'll also do is at the top, I'll put either a banner message or a company logo or something to make it a little bit more spruced up. And if we press go, you do serial number, part number. Okay. Message, and you press OK, and it passes it out through the indicators. So that is the basic, fastest way to get a PreUUT dialog going on. But this doesn't give you a lot of benefit versus what's already built into Teststand, or if you're using LabVIEW, you've probably got something equivalent. So let's make this a little bit more, add a few more features. The first thing we'll do is we'll mess with the tabbing order. If you happen to have put the controls in out of order or something, you can change it so that the first control you'll get to is the serial number, followed by the part number, the comments field, and then the OK button, and then the cancel button. So as you go through this form, the operators can just do tab to go to the next one, and they don't have to click on it if they don't need to. Press OK. Now we fixed tabbing order. The next thing we want to do is if we launch this again, you'll see that it already has the values from the previous execution on, and we're going to change that by doing a reinitialize to default. Actually, first we're going to fix the error in to error out for our data flow programming. Otherwise, that would have broken something. Stick it down there. And then for each of the controls that you want to initialize the default, you go to invoke node, reinitialize the default. Same with the part number and the comments field. We'll stick all these over here. And now every time we launch the dialog, everything's cleared out. The next thing we're going to do is for the part number. As you can see, there's nothing in the drop-down list yet. And if you had to, you could add the items manually, but then your dialog would be specific for a given test sequence or LabVIEW application. If we want to make it generic, it's actually pretty easy. You right-click the part number, you create a property node, you look for the strings option, and then we will add that to our list of setups. Change it to right. And now I've added another control. We're going to move it off screen. Stick it over here. We'll call it valid part numbers. And add that as an input. Let's make sure it's an optional input. And then to test this out, we're going to say part number 1, part number 2. And then when we press run, you can see that they're now part of the drop-down list. Another thing I highly recommend is that if you have the option to do drop-downs, you unclick the allow undefined strings, and this helps idiot-proof the user interface in that they cannot enter in a part number that's not valid for this application. Let's make that smaller. Okay, so that fixes the part number field, but what about the serial number field? How can we validate that? There's a couple ways to do it, but the one I usually do is to use the match regular expressions VI. And so we'll go here and we'll click serial number value change. Oops. I don't know what's doing with that. That's just part of the templating. If you wrote this from scratch, you wouldn't get that option. So we go into the string VI and we go to match regular expressions. If you're not familiar with match regular expressions, I highly recommend you look into it and work on it. It's used in a lot of applications, useful applications where you need to scan a string for information and some data manipulation. But basically what it does is it uses the Perl standard library to match a pattern string. And it is a Perl pattern string, and we'll go over that. And from that, what happens is that if it gets a match, then this offset past match is going to be 0 or greater. And if it doesn't get a match, it's going to be a -1. So what we can do is we can go under our comparisons and do our greater or equal to 0 tab. And then we'll go to the new value, put it in the input string. We put our regular expression string in. And then if the input string matches the pattern in the regular expression, you'll get a true. And if not, you'll get a false. Perl regular expressions have been used for a long time, and they are supported in a lot of languages. So if you wanted to, you can go into the LabVIEW help, and it will give you a list of all of the supported regular expressions you can use and examples on how to do it. Or you can do a quick search for a regular expression calculator or tool, and you'll come up with a tool like this, which I find more useful because you can put in the input string and then it does an explanation of what is matching and why and what's not matching and why. So in this instance, what I'm doing is I'm saying from the start of the string, we're going to match a hexadecimal number, which means the valid digits are A through F, capital, 0 through 9, and 6. We want the first 6 digits. So I'm going to copy that one that I've created and stick it there. And then I want to plumb out the actual regular expression. Or sorry, the submatch for the regular expression. If you want to do a submatch, you just take your regular expression match and you stick it inside parens. Each of these, you can have multiple of these matches in a given statement. You can also have constants if you need to, or there's constant data you don't care about. And then what this does is it says, this is the match, but only give me the match. Don't give me anything else in the string. And this is useful. So for instance, if they put in 7 characters instead of 6, but the first 6 are valid, then it will just grab those. So we will do that. And then we will, let's go back to the OK. We're going to enforce it. And to do that, we're going to use a select and a local variable. Okay, so if it's greater than or equal to 0, that means that the serial number matches the regular expression. We're going to grab the submatch, which is just the portion that matches the regular expression, and we're going to wire it into the select. The false case is nothing, which means if it's false, then it will clear the serial number out. And we also need to tell the operator something has gone wrong. And there's different ways you can do this depending on your preferences. You can have a little text label or something that says what it is, but for simplicity's sake, we're going to just do a simple 1-button dialog and say serial number fails validation, only hex numbers 6 digits allowed. And we're going to save this as PreUUT. So now that we go, serial number, if we put in test, oops, what happened there? Oh, these default constants both need to be false. And the reason it did that is I forgot to swap this to false. So we're going to make this case false. And then we get our validation failed message. Serial number fails validation, only hex number 6 digits allowed. And then if we give it a 4-digit one, still only wants 6 digits. 6-digit one is fine. Part number is fine. Comments, we have no validation on. And then we press OK. Now, as you notice, there's one flaw with this that we're going to fix right now, is that even though if it's all valid and you press OK, that's fine. But if there's nothing in the serial form, you can, or any of these forms, you can still press OK. So there's 2 ways to do this. We can disable the OK button and only enable it when everything has been filled out, or we can disable it and then only enable it when critical fields have been filled out. So we're going to do that right now. And to do that, we're going to say, where's my control? We're going to go to the OK button. We're going to demonstrate this method. You're going to want to create a property node called disabled. And since all of them start empty, we're going to have them all start or initialize it to a disabled state. And Okay, it's going to be disabled and grayed out is what you want. Okay, and then we're going to do a simple case where in the serial number value, we're going to put it in and make sure that if it fails validations, it's disabled and grayed out. If it passes validation, we'll enable the OK button. One thing to notice too is that you can't do a copy paste of a node I've created like that. So if you paste it, it just goes back to the generic case. So what I'm actually doing is I'm selecting it, holding down Control, come on, and then dragging. At that point, it does the copy correctly. I don't know why LabVIEW hasn't fixed that all these years, but that's the case. All right. So now if we put it here, the OK button cannot be clicked. And then if we do serial number, it fails validation, it gives us our error message. And then if we put in the correct one, it enables it. We're good to go. Select the part number and OK. Now, if you wanted to do multi-stage validation, such as you have to have the serial number and the part number correct, then what we're going to be doing is we're going to take the enabled case out. And we're going to be adding 2 booleans. So let's go to our case here, and we're going to call them serial number OK and part number OK. And then we're going to go to the timeout case, which in this template is not here, so we're going to have to add an event case. Application, timeout. We're going to set the timeout value of 1 second. And we're going to end these 2 controls. So if the serial number is OK and the part number is OK, then it's going to set the OK button to the appropriate state. And we'll use a select for this as well. So if both the serial number OK boolean and the part number OK boolean are true, the OK button will be enabled. If they're false, it will be disabled and grayed out. And since this isn't the timeout case, this will run every second to pull the current state. And then what we do in here is we're going to need 2 local variables. Let's go back to timeout. And we should probably initialize these as well. And then when serial number change, this one's easy. We've already got a boolean we can use. So we'll do that. We haven't done any logic on the part number yet, so we're going to create an event case for that. Well, it depends. You can create an event case, or we'll just go back to the timeout. Create a local variable here. And the validation I'm going to be using in this particular case is just, we're going to swap out, instead of using this Boolean, we're going to use just the, is it an empty string comparison. So that's the basic check. If you had like 5 or 6 controls that you needed to validate, you could change this into the compound arithmetic and have as many AND nodes as you want. I'm going to leave the part number Boolean in here for now in case I need it later. Get rid of that local variable. Now we've done a compound validation. We press go. Serial number. You can see it trimmed it. Why did it do that? Oh, sorry. You need to put a not on the end of this. So this, the empty string will return true if there's an empty string in there, which means we need to change it to a not. So when not an empty string, it becomes true. That's the appropriate validation rule. Let's try this again. Serial number, part number, and it then comes the OK button, then it got enabled. And that's how you can get a basic PreUUT dialog built.